The Minnesota Timberwolves might finally be good next season. And by good, I'm not saying they're going to be a contender. I'm not saying they're going to be a top 4 seed. But I think the Minnesota Timberwolves can contest to be a playoff team again next season. I think they showed a lot of promise last year. It was a rough season again. It wasn't a very good season, but they showed a lot more promise late in the season. Anthony Edwards really figured out his game in the last 20 games or so of the season. D'Angelo Russell came back from injury and looked fairly good as well. You still have Malik Beasley on the roster, who looks to be like he can be someone who can be a very good scorer for this team as well. They have a lot of good offensive pieces. And so we're going to be talking about this offseason as well as what we can look forward to for this Minnesota Timberwolves team moving into next year with regards to some of the pieces on this team, what roster moves they could make, but also some of the concerns I have for this team moving into next year, as I think they can finally push to be a team that can push in for those playing games and try to get into the 7 or the 8 seed. So let's just talk about the core pieces of this roster. Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Anthony Edwards. That's your core. Those are your core 4 guys, okay? And so, let's just start with what I like, okay? I think the D'Angelo Russell, Karl-Anthony Towns fit is good. They have you good pick and rolls, good spacing. Both can pick and pop. You can pick and roll. Very good on the offensive end in both respects. Both can have a decent playmaking ability, more so D'Angelo Russell than Karl-Anthony Towns, of course, but Karl-Anthony Towns has good passing for the 5 spot. They can both space the floor. Can both finish at the rim. Russell off the drive, Karl-Anthony Towns in the post. I like it. I like it a lot. Malik Beasley, proven to be a very good perimeter scorer in Minnesota the last few years. Always looked good in Denver, but really came into his own in a bigger role in Minnesota. He's proven to be a very good 3-point shooter in high volume. Can be quite good from mid-range and net getting to the rim as well. He's not any bit of a playmaker by any stretch, but he just goes out and gets buckets for you while providing not bad defense. And then you have Anthony Edwards, first overall pick last year. You could have argued for many people that he should have taken LaMelo first overall, but I don't think Minnesota are going to be too mad at what they got in Anthony Edwards. He was absolutely on fire towards the end of the year. He finished the year averaging over 19 points a game on the season, and that just tells you how big his numbers were late in the year because he was not shooting up very well early on in the year. Efficiency, of course, was the biggest thing for him last year, but that also drastically improved later on in the year. He looks to have a decent 3-point shot. He can hit a bit in the mid-range on the ISO. Catch and shoot game looks to be decent. And I think for a year 1 for Anthony Edwards, it's very positive signs. He played every game in the year, stayed healthy, which is also a good sign for a rookie in a very busy, congested season. So there's a lot to like with those core 4 for this Minnesota team. But the key was offense. The key was offense. That's my concern for this Minnesota team. Karl-Anthony Towns is still not a very good rim protector. He never has been, and at this point in his career, it doesn't look like he will be. D'Angelo Russell, of course, still has concerns on the defensive end as well. Malik Beasley can be fairly good for you on the defensive end, but it can be a bit hit and miss, especially if he has to be the guy on offense. Which next year, if everyone can stay healthy, he won't be. And Anthony Edwards, of course, he's young. We'll have to see where his defense is at still. It's hard to say. He hasn't shown to be an elite defender yet, but he's also shown some moments where he can be a fairly positive defender. So kind of just have to wait and see where the development goes for him yet. Young guard, he still has lots of time to develop his defensive side of the ball. But that's the one concern, is defense. The other concern is health. Karl-Anthony Towns has missed significant time in multiple years in his career now. The last 2 seasons, he's played 35 and 50 games, respectively. Last year, of course, he missed a bit of time due to COVID protocols, but still significant time missed, and especially the year before as well. He'll be looking to stay healthy next season, and that's a concern I have for him moving forward. D'Angelo Russell also has had some injury concerns. Second year of his career, 63 games. Third year, 48. 45 the year before that, and now 42 last year. Only one of the last 5 years has he played more than 65 games, and 3 of those years he's played under 50. That's a concern for me. His health has been very, very questionable. Malik Beasley seems to be fairly healthy, of course, then had the suspension last year, but his health hasn't necessarily been a concern to me, although he has missed a bit of time. But I think he should be durable enough, but he also still, again, has missed time. 37 games last year, even you factor in the suspension, that's 20 games. There's still a nice chunk of 15 games there. 62 games in Denver in 17-18 as well. Now, given that he wasn't fully in the rotation, that wasn't necessarily injury. But point being, he hasn't been always available either. But I'm less concerned about him than I am D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns. Those have been a bit more sequential years and a bit more regular. Those are your core two guys. Those are your guys getting your 30+ million a year. That's a concern I have for this Minnesota team. But the biggest concern for me is salaries and defense. It just has to be. It just has to be. And so we look at defense on this team, right? We mentioned that the core four on this team, other than you could argue Beasley on his day, are not great defenders, in my opinion at least. So you're looking for defense on this team. The backup center isn't a great defender. Naz Reid is an undersized center who's good on the offensive end. If I'm Minnesota, I like Naz Reid. I think he's a good player, but I think Minnesota need a good rim protecting center to back up Karl-Anthony Towns. I think that's a necessity. Okogie's good on defense, and he has to play lots of minutes for Minnesota because of that, because they need a good wing defender, but he can't do anything on offense at all. Year 3 now, and if anything has gotten worse, his efficiency, his production, everything is just worse. Man barely shot 40% from the field last year. It's a struggle. It's unfortunate. It'd be nice to see him pick up his offensive game, but he's really struggled. Jarrett Culver, still kind of trying to find his way. His defense has improved, but he's more so there for his offense, and his offense hasn't been great. So he's kind of been cast away, not really played that much. Hernan Gomez, questionable defensively, not that great of mobility for the 4. Jake Layman, not bad defense. Shane McDaniels, not bad defense. Point being, there aren't that many good defenders on this team, and there aren't many two-way guys. Most guys are offensive threats. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see some moves be made at some point. And I don't think they'll be the summer, but at some point in the next year or two, I would suspect that Minnesota will make some moves to try and acquire some more two-way talent or some more defensive talent. Because the offense is not going to be the issue for this team. You could argue that in the right, actually, not even an argument, it's just a fact that on the right scenario, they have bare minimum 4 20-point-a-game scorers on this team. Anthony Edwards, Malik Beasley, D. Russell, and Karl-Anthony Towns all have done it or nearly done it in their career. Beasley has in his stint with Minnesota when he first got traded and almost had it last year. D'Angelo Russell, I believe, has. Karl-Anthony Towns has. And Anthony Edwards almost did last year. Problem is not offense. Problem is going to be on the defensive end. That's what they need to start figuring out as they move forward. I don't suspect any moves are going to get made on that front right away. I would think, and I would suggest this Minnesota team goes into next year pretty much as constructed, just plays it out. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. That is the main thing for this team, and they can just run it back and see how this team actually plays. Russell healthy. Karl-Anthony Towns healthy, because they again didn't play that much together last year because Karl-Anthony Towns had to miss a significant part of the start of the year due to protocols, and then D'Angelo Russell picked up his injury later on in the year when Karl-Anthony Towns was playing. So again, they still haven't actually played that many games together, even though they've now been on the team for several years together. Malik Beasley, of course, missed time as well. Anthony Edwards took a while to find his game. So get all these guys back together for the start of the year, and I think you'll see that this team can definitely be better, no doubt, at least on the offensive end. So I think they'll run it back, play it for a year, 6 months, and then they'll see, okay. I think at that point, then that's when Minnesota are going to have to evaluate and see, okay, maybe these guys have developed enough internally to where we have the defensive pieces, or do we need to try and trade one of our core guys to acquire some defense? As far as trades go for this team, Ben Simmons trade talks have been quite heavily talked about, but they aren't willing to trade D'Angelo Russell, which means the only other valuable trade piece they're obviously interested in trading is Malik Beasley. Don't know if that's going to be enough to tempt Philly. I feel like they can probably get a lot more than Malik Beasley for someone like Ben Simmons as the core piece of a trade, but maybe that is the best they get. Maybe Malik Beasley and a first or a couple of firsts is enough, and it gives Philly a perimeter score. Something else that you could potentially see is a Ricky Rubio trade as you approach the deadline next year. He only has 1 year left on his contract. He is now the age of 30, and unless he is willing to take a significant pay cut, there's no way Minnesota would sign him. He's making nearly $18 million next year, and they're already over the cap for next year. They have 131 in projected spending next year, and then the year after that, they already have 113 projected spending. That's not to account that D'Angelo Russell is going to need a new contract that year after if he does end up coming back. Anthony Edwards is also going to need an extension in 3 years' time as well. So not that that's immediate, but they're already in such a high salary cap scenario, already have so much contracts owing, that they're going to have to start thinking about what they're going to do from a salary standpoint. And part of that might be trading away someone like D'Angelo Russell to try and acquire a defensive piece in a year or two if they recognize that, okay, what we have is not working. The offense is good, but we need some defensive pieces. Maybe we look for more of a two-way guy, someone who's a bit more defensive-oriented, just a bit more of a playmaker and defensive guy. Whoever that is at that point in time, that's definitely something that they may look into doing. But that's kind of the main points of Minnesota moving forward. Free agency isn't much of a concern for them this year. As I mentioned, they're already over the salary cap, so they're not going to be able to do too much outside of minimum contracts and a mid-level exception. Ed Davis and Jared Vanderbilt are the only expirings. Given the fact that they already have a backup center, backup power forwards, I don't know if they're going to have too much motivation to bring back Ed Davis. Maybe they want to bring back Vanderbilt for another season, and then they also have Jordan McLaughlin as well. But they don't have anything big as far as big expiring contracts or anyone of overly large value. But next summer, they will have a few more decisions to make. They'll have Jarrett Culver on a team option. I don't even know if they'll pick that up at this point, to be honest. They're just not playing him. But Ricky Rubio will be an expiring, as well as Jake Layman and Josh Okogie. So they will have a few decisions to make there for sure. But yeah, that is my thoughts on Minnesota moving forward. I think they run it back next year. I think they're a better team. I think there's someone that can push for the play-in games, no doubt. I think them, the Pelicans, those types of teams will start pushing for that next year. But defense is my concern, and health is my concern. If this team stays healthy, great. They can definitely contest for a playoff spot. But if they start picking up injuries again, I really hope Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell can stay healthy. We can actually see that duo play out with the other guys on this roster. But yeah, health is the main concern. And can they defend enough? Because they're not going to be able to drop 130 every night. They'll do it some nights, I have no doubts. But you can't do that every night. The offense is not that consistent. It's just not. But that's my thoughts on Minnesota moving forward. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below, and what you think this Minnesota team could do in the offseason, as well as how good they will be next season. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.